Day one is here. Lombardi Time Brews. Let's go. Welcome to episode 1 of Lombardi Time Brews. Episode 1, the first one. I am your host, John Del Rey. Today we're going to be covering the 53-man roster prediction for the Green Bay Packers, just the offensive side of the ball today. And please keep in mind, there is still a bunch of time in preseason. There's still the last game with the Chiefs this week. Still the off week between that, still a lot of moving parts, but this is from what we've kind of learned so far, what we've seen in the first 2 games, what we saw at training camp. I think that this is the way the roster is trending, with sprinkles of my opinion. So again, episode 1 of Lombardi Time Brews, day 1, episode 1. I am so glad that you're here. Please do me a favor, if you like what you hear today, like the video, subscribe. This is available if you're watching on video. It's on YouTube. If you're just listening to the podcast, it's available Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Overcast, Packet Cast, I think they call it, a whole bunch of podcast things. So please subscribe, turn on your notifications, throw it a like, share it with your friends, so we can really build a Packer community here. And I'm also going to let you in on a little secret. Pretty much every job I've ever had, for some reason, I have been a really big hit with elderly women. I don't know why. This dates all the way back to high school, when I was just volunteering at places in high school, or when I was a choir kid in high school. I don't know. Always been a big hit with that particular demographic. I don't mean this to be weird, but it's true. So, if you are a younger person and you have an older person who you think may enjoy listening to me, maybe send it their way, especially if they happen to live in a nursing home, assisted living, something like that. Maybe then they can spread around to their friends, get me over the PA of the nursing home, whatever it's going to take. But please share, like, follow, turn on your notifications if you like what you hear today, so you can check out Lombardi Time Brews. We're going to be here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, every weekday, year-round, with some bonus content on the weekends as well for the draft, or even games if they necessitate it. But I am going to be here every single weekday, Monday through Friday, year-round. So turn on those notifications. We will always find something Packers to talk about, and we are here for you to make sure that you get all of the content that you want year-round. So please, like, follow, subscribe. Now, to dive into the topic of today, 53-man roster, offense only today, defense is coming in tomorrow's video. Very first position we're going to talk about is perhaps the easiest position on the entire team to talk about. That would be the quarterback position. You've got 3 contenders there. Obviously, one is 4-time MVP Aaron Rodgers. Then you have can we call him the heir apparent now? Maybe not yet, but trending that way. His backup, you got Jordan Love. And then number 3, you've got Danny Etling. Obviously, Rodgers and Love. I'm calling 2 quarterbacks on this roster. Danny Etling, unfortunately, is going to be released. I do think they will try to retain him on the practice squad. He can be their practice squad arm. But Rodgers, Love, you got 2 quarterbacks here. Everyone has talked about the progress of Love and how remarkable it's been. And there's no doubt. And you have to wonder if ultimately Green Bay is sleeping a little bit more comfortably now, given the progress of Love. Let's say they win the Super Bowl this year and Rodgers decides to ride off into the sunset. Maybe they're a little bit more comfortable turning the page now than they were 3 months ago. Certainly his progress is a positive. If you are a fan of the Green Bay Packers and you are watching Jordan Love and you're angry at his progress, or you're angry at his mere existence, I think I'd beg you to question where your priorities lie, because it's good that he's progressing, right? So, by the way, one other last note about quarterbacks. Danny Etling, that dude has wheels. He is a runner. And this was pretty evident in training camp, but we really saw it on that 51-yard run that he had in the preseason game against the Saints last week. Dude can fly. And it was one of the coolest preseason moments I've ever seen, to see the entire team just kind of swarm around him on the sideline. Even LaFleur coming up, and LaFleur revealing later on that was not a planned run, but Etling absolutely made the right call in doing that run. Just pure joy on the sideline. A very cool preseason moment. Something that we miss a lot of in preseason, or people get bored with the games, but for a lot of these guys, this is the only true NFL action they may ever see. And for Etling to have that moment, really, really cool. Really cool. To see the entire team proud and happy for him was a great moment to be a Packer fan. So that's quarterbacks. Rodgers, Love, that's it. Next position up after quarterback is not one of the easiest positions to decipher, and that is running back. You've got two ultra easy examples here in Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, Showtime and the Quadfather or Quadzilla. Yeah, that's easy. They're one of the premier running back duos in the NFL. But the question marks come in with the next couple. And I say couple because I think they're going to keep 4 running backs, or at the very least, I think they should. Historically speaking, 2019, they kept 3 running backs. 2020, they kept 4. And then 2021, they kept 3. 2020, when they did keep 4, it was when Tyler Ervin was counted as a running back. And he was this weird kind of gadget, hybrid running back wide receiver. They counted him as a running back on the initial depth chart. So that's what gave them 4. Other than that, they haven't kept 4 in the LaFleur era. I think that this is the year. This year, Jones and Dillon, we know, are going to be used more as pass catchers than they have historically been. Obviously, an area where Tyler Goodson excels as well. But I think keeping 4 running backs is the right move, because even this morning, LaFleur talked about how they have 2 starting running backs. Jones and Dillon, they are both 1A and 1A. How do you not have a backup for each one of them? Just logically, I go back to the playoff game against Frisco last year. A.J. Dillon hurts his ribs playing special teams, and then all of a sudden, a whole chunk of the playbook for Dillon just had to get thrown out because they didn't have anyone to do exactly what Dillon does. And obviously, you can't replicate Dillon, but just like several other spots on the team, I'd love to see a backup for each one of those guys. If you're going to use the running back position more, then dedicate more personnel to it. Patrick Taylor has been a fringe roster guy for, I believe this is year number 3 for him. And he's been between practice squad and roster and just trying to find his way, trying to really get a solidified roster spot. And if you release him, granted, we don't know the personality, we don't know the players here, but if you release him, is it a guarantee that he's going to sign up to be on the practice squad again? Or is he going to opt to go to a practice squad where he feels he has more chances? Tyler Goodson has shown this preseason that he should have been a draft pick, like a lot of people said right after the draft. He's shown out. He has great burst. I mean, it's not elite yet, all of his tools, but one thing he certainly has is burst, and it is electric when he catches the ball or runs the ball, something that the Packers can certainly utilize. So you've got a stable of 4 running backs there: Patrick Taylor, Tyler Goodson, and then your 2 1As in Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. That leaves Kylan Hill. I do believe, because I haven't seen anything, he's been looking good in training camp, don't get me wrong. But I haven't seen a lot of progress towards saying week 1 for him, like we did with Tunyon. So I think Kylan Hill probably opens the season on the PUP, which offers them a little bit more time to kind of mesh out this running back room, but I think on the initial 53 we see 4. Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, Patrick Taylor, and Tyler Goodson. Up next is wide receiver, and I'm just going to get this out of the way right off the bat. I don't see any way the Packers are keeping 8, even though that seems to be a lot of talk right now. But I do think they keep 7. I think 7 is going to be the magic number. Just to recap history here in LaFleur's era, 2019, they kept 6 wide receivers. 2025, 2021, 6. They have not kept 7 since the McCarthy years. But this feels like the year that it could be 7. I will say Gutekunst and LaFleur in roster building in the last 3 years, when you look at the trends, do seem to have this habit of looking at some of the lesser skilled, lesser depth positions on the team and then just chucking a bunch of bodies at it. Could kind of be wide receiver this year. I mean, it is young in some regards. It is old in other regards. It's top heavy in some regard. And it's got depth in some regards. It is a very complete and empty wide receiver room in a lot of different ways. And that's why I really could just see them keeping a bunch of the pieces of the puzzle and not trimming it and not relying overly on one trait versus another, but keeping a bunch of the pieces of the puzzle, which is going to give you 7 wide receivers. Ultimately, I'm going to cover the releases first, but my releases are Samori Toure, Ishmael Hyman, Travis Fulgham, Danny Davis. Toure has really shown up in the last couple of weeks to training camp, making some nice plays. He had an excellent family night even. But I think this is one spot where he just kind of winds up being the odd man out. 7th round pick, stands a good chance to come back on the practice squad. To me, he feels like the odd man out. Another name on this release list, Danny Davis, has done excellent work, especially earlier in camp. He's been banged up as of late, but earlier in camp just seemed to be the guy that was in the right spot all the time. Had a great relationship with Love even. Again, I think he is a great practice squad candidate, especially now with practice squad being at 16 people. I don't think keeping 2 receivers on that is at all out of the realm of possibility. I think Danny Davis just has that all about him. Make it to the practice squad, continue working on those traits. Not that this matters to the front office, but a Wisconsin kid, you love to see that. He's going to be on the practice squad, is my gut feeling. And then the other release is Ishmael Hyman. I know they've tried some different things with him over the course of the preseason, and he's a special teamer. I just don't see him making it. And then lastly, the brand new pickup, Travis Fulgham. New face, old face, Travis Fulgham. I think he's going to help them get through camp in the next few weeks, and then that's it. I don't see him quickly cracking this roster. But that means that we've got 7 guys who are making it, and that's going to be Juwan Winfrey, Christian Watson, Sammy Watkins, Amari Rogers, Allen Lazard, Romeo Doubs, and Randall Cobb. Again, all different pieces here. Amari Rogers has had a very up and down preseason. Seems to be making more strides as a returner than he is as a receiver right now. As a returner, he's shown progress. He had that 50-yard return against the Niners. He's been heralded as of late for his decision-making, looking more confident, cutting as a returner. But as a receiver, they've still talked about him doing better, but we've yet to really see much. There are some stats on PEFF. I won't get into all of them now, but some of the advanced stats about how many routes he's run this preseason versus how many targets that's been versus how many catches, and they're not pretty. You hope to see continued progress as a receiver and not just a returner, but I think he still absolutely makes this roster. He's a 3rd-round pick in year number 2. He's obviously a core special teamer. I don't see him going anywhere at all. And the other one that's a bit of a question for a lot of people is Juwan Winfrey. I think 12 just likes Winfrey too much, and I think the Packers like Winfrey too, and I think that that's a little bit of the difference. Not just the relationships being different now between Rodgers and front office, but, over the past couple of years, Rodgers has had his different crushes. But the Packers front office never seemed to be in love with them as much as maybe Rodgers was. Winfrey, I'm not sure that that's the case. I think they really do like Winfrey. And I can easily see them keeping him around. 12 loves throwing to him. He's another guy that just seems to do the right thing at the right time. And if he can contribute on special teams along with Amari Rodgers, that's your recipe for keeping 7 receivers. So up next, that brings us to our tight ends. And I still think they keep 4. I mean, I think they're going to have to. Well, I think they want to. Let's say that. So really what that does is that leaves us with Robert Tonyan, Mercedes Lewis, Josiah DeGuara, and I still think Tyler Davis makes it. I do. I think even just this morning in the presser for LaFleur, he talked about how they still really like Tyler Davis's potential and how he's contributed to a number of things that you don't just see on the TV cast or some typical coach speak things for a guy that he likes. But the truth is, as I was going through Rich Bisaccia's history, LaFleur specifically mentioned this morning that they like what Tyler Davis has done on special teams. And in going through Bisaccia's history, I noticed that in the last 2 years, the guy on the Las Vegas Raiders who happened to have the second most snaps the last 2 years happened to be a tight end. 2 years ago, Derek Carrier. Last year, Felix Moreau. And I can't help but think that, are they looking at Tyler Davis for that role? I mean, in addition to being Tonyan's role's backup, is Tyler Davis that guy that they want on teams? You would think as of 2 weeks ago that would have been Dominique Daphne, who always showed kind of a knack for special teams, but the way that LaFleur talked this morning about Tyler Davis and his contribution on teams has me thinking that he hasn't played himself off the 53-man roster yet. And really, make no bones about it, he has had a god-awful preseason. I mean, missed blocks, drop passes, involvement in 2 turnover plays. It's been rough. But I still think they keep him around. My gut tells me, especially after Gutekunst this summer, talked about how they really think that they found something there. And now even after these 2 awful performances from Davis, LaFleur is still talking about how they like his potential and his contribution on teams. Pair that with what we know about Bisaccia, maybe they want to keep him around. And so that gives you 4 tight ends. Again, that gives you Mercedes Lewis, Josiah DeGuara, Robert Tonyan, or what does he want to be called now? I think it was Big Daddy T is his requested nickname now. Yeah, so Big Daddy T in there at tight end, and then Tyler Davis. That means not making the roster is going to be Elise Mack, Nate Becker, and Sal Cannella, the USFL standout. And it's entirely possible, because we do have a couple of weeks yet, it's entirely possible that Tyler Davis is yet going to play his way off of the 53, and maybe we'll see Nate Becker step into that role, or Elise Mack, who's been showing out as of late. But right now, I don't think Davis has done enough to not get a roster spot. I think they're sticking with 4 tight ends, and I think Davis is one of them. Last position we're going to talk about today is the offensive line. And I need to start this off. Yeah, it's day-old news at this point, but he's back. David Bakhtiari is back, activated off of the PUP yesterday. Not fully practicing yet, nor is Elton Jenkins, but the fact that he's now off the PUP means that we can make a reasonable expectation that both of them will be playing in the first 4 weeks of the season. The PUP keeps you out for the first 4 weeks this year. To have both of them back means it's completely reasonable that you would think the Packers think they're playing within those first 4 weeks. Obviously, great news for the sake of the offensive line to have David Bakhtiari back there as the stalwart left tackle. Elton Jenkins, since he's been back, has been practicing almost exclusively at right tackle. I do believe that that's where he's going to wind up. Ultimately, I think you're going to see left tackle locked down with David Bakhtiari, left guard John Runyon Jr., center Josh Myers, right guard, and then right tackle Elton Jenkins. Your candidates at right guard, seemingly to this point, is three guys. One, you've got Royce Newman, the incumbent, kind of, for that right guard job, who has done some splitting to right tackle so far this preseason and training camp. You've got Jake Hansen, who still is getting snaps with the ones in training camp, apparently, at right guard. And then you've got rookie Zach Tom. Zach Tom was featured in a tweet by PFF this morning, one of only two guys in the NFL that's had 40 pass protection reps in preseason thus far, and one of only two dudes not to give up a sack so far, or a pressure, I should say. Newman, I think, showed excellent progress at the end of the year last year. I think he is still a work in progress. Jake, I'm not going to lie. I don't understand what they see in Jake Hansen at right guard. I think, center, sure. Yeah, backup center. I get it. He's done some nice things there, but I just don't get it. And I think he was better in the Saints game than he was in the Niners game. But, man, I know they've sung his praises and said he's had a really nice camp, and it's possible he's doing a lot of things that we're not seeing in games or that I saw at practice when they were open to people. But, man, faith in the Packers, right? I hope they get this one right. And then you've got Zach Tom, and I would love to see Tom as the week one starter at right guard. I think he's shown tremendous traits this preseason. I think he has been very strong. I think they just want to make him Elton Jenkins Jr., and that he's going to learn every spot on the line, in which case, what a remarkable backup that would be. Either way, right guard, that's the bit of the question mark, but that gives you your starting five. But that's already, that's six guys on the line already accounted for. Beyond that, you still have to account for Sean Ryan, who's your third-round pick. I mean, he's not going anywhere. He's had a very quiet camp, but he certainly isn't going anywhere. They're not going to release a third-round pick. So he's making the roster. You still have Yash, your backup left tackle for sure, potentially your swing tackle. You still have, beyond that, let's see, Sean, Royce, Yash, David, Zach, JRJ, Elton, Josh, Jake. Yeah, that gives you 9 offensive line. I mean, that's it. That's it. That's 9 linemen. And historically for the Packers, in the last couple of years, 2019, their initial roster had 9 offensive linemen. 2020, 9. 2021, 9. There's a trend here of keeping 9 offensive linemen on the initial 53 every single year. And you've already got 9 with Sean Ryan, Royce Newman, Yash, David Bakhtiari, Zach Tom, John Runyon Jr., Elton Jenkins, Josh Myers, Jake Hansen. 9. So that means on your release list, you've got Cole Van Lanen, who did run with the ones a bunch in minicamp, but I haven't heard anything about Cole Van Lanen this preseason training camp much at all. Rasheed Walker, who's had some injury concerns, a very intriguing prospect, but has had injury problems this camp. Michael Mannett, who, again, just has felt like a camp body all along. And then Caleb Jones, who certainly has made waves lately, and wow, is this a big human being. Sitting there at training camp, woof, that is a big dude. I mean, he stands a good 6 inches above most of the other O-linemen. He big. One of the coolest moments that I did see sitting at training camp every day, though, was as he was doing a drill, and Luke Butkus, the offensive line coach, just gently laid into him, I guess I would say. So Caleb Jones basically was lining up as the linebacker and was fading certain ways, right? And Butkus was standing behind the O-lineman doing the drill work and pointing secretly, saying which way the linebacker should go. And he pointed one way, and Caleb Jones basically took 2 steps, but did it very hesitantly, and then kind of went where Butkus wanted. And Butkus just stopped the drill, went up to Caleb Jones, and shouted a bunch of things that I should not say here. But then he kind of pulled in Caleb Jones close, and I was luckily close enough to hear all this, and he goes, "God, I hate rookies." You know why I hate rookies? Because they don't know anything. And then it became a nice, quiet conversation between the two that ended with Butkus giving a very emphatic shoulder pad slap and Jones going back into the line. Caleb Jones has made great progress. He is a monster of a human being, just from a physical perspective, and certainly someone intriguing that may be a practice squad stash, that may be one of the first call-ups, because he's been playing pretty well. But again, just to recap, gives you 9 offensive linemen: Sean Ryan, Royce Newman, Yash, David Bakhtiari, Zach Tom, JRJ, Elton Jenkins, Josh Myers, Jake Hansen, leaving off Cole Van Lanen, Rasheed Walker, Caleb Jones, and Michael Menon. That is your offensive line, 9 guys. So that's it for Day 1, Episode 1. If you enjoyed listening to Lombardi Time Brews today, please, like I implored you in the beginning, click like, click subscribe, click everything you can to get this shared around. I'm going to be here Monday through Friday all year round, and I am so looking forward to having you be a part of the community that we can build, all focused around the Green Bay Packers. I know there is a ton of different places you can listen to content about the Packers. And even if you carve out a little bit of time for Lombardi Time Brews, for what we're going to build here, that'll mean a lot. And I think we can go a long way to building a really positive fan community. So click like, click subscribe, do whatever you can. I really hope you enjoyed today. I cannot thank you enough for sitting in on Day 1, Episode 1. It really means the world to me that you would check out this little podcast, this little YouTube channel just as it's getting going. It means the world. Thank you so much. I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day. I will be back tomorrow with the defense for the 53. Have a great day. Thanks, everyone.